Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for today, Monday, August 26th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my core picks. It's going to be one pitcher, four hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. And then after that, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet. My cheat sheet is 100% free. It can be found on Facebook, it can be found on Twitter, and it can be found on the YouTube community tab. So definitely feel free to use that as a resource as you're building out your lineups for tonight's slate overall. And then from that cheat sheet, we will also be talking about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. But without further ado, we'll get right into it with the core picks for today. We're going to start off at the pitcher position with Ryan Pepiot of the Tampa Bay Rays. He is $8,000, averaging just under 30 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against the Seattle Mariners tonight. He has pitched against them one time in his young career, and that was this season in 2024. He had 37 points against them. He's got some decent but limited history versus them in the past, and he's been fairly effective since coming back off the injured list. So do like him at this price tag of $8,000. You know, if you want to pay up for like a Max Fried, a Zach Wheeler, definitely have some interest in those guys as well. But in the season in totality for Ryan Pepiot, 7 wins, and his ERA is at 3.65, so very respectable numbers for him so far this year. Then we're going to get down to our hitters. We're going to start off with second baseman Connor Norby of the Miami Marlins. He's $3,000, averaging just over 10.5 fantasy points per game on the season. Been doing pretty good since he's coming over to this Marlins team. Goes against the Colorado Rockies tonight. It's not technically announced who their starting pitcher is. Roster Resource does have it listed as Ryan Feltner, but Connor Norby does not have any history versus him in the past. But if we look at what he's done since his call-up with the Miami Marlins, 6-game hitting streak, 2 multi games, 2 home runs, 4 double-digit performances during that time span, and he also has 5 games of 9 fantasy points or more. So pretty safe floor for Connor Norby if we look at what he's done on the season in totality. 268 average, 4 home runs, 6 RBIs. Once again, averaging just over 10.5 fantasy points per game at $3,000. Looks like a pretty solid play in a game that is at Coors Field as well. Then we're going to move down to third base with Nolan Arenado. He was the last guy that I threw in the core picks for today overall. He's $2,800, averaging just under 9 fantasy points per game. Goes against the San Diego Padres, another team that technically is not listed their starter, but if we go by roster resource, it is listed as Randy Vasquez over there as kind of the expected starter. So if it's Randy Vasquez, he has no history versus him in his career, but Nolan Arenado right now on a modest 8-game hitting streak, only 2 multi-games during that time span, 2 home runs, and only 2 double-digit performances. But if we can get a good night out of him tonight, you know, $2,800 seems like a pretty reasonable price tag. You know, if you want to play somebody else at this spot, you can definitely go ahead and do so as well. But if we look at what he's done so far in the season, 273 average, 14 home runs, 60 RBIs, once again averaging just under 9 fantasy points per game at $2,800. And then we're going to move down to the outfield. We got Jazz Chisholm here at $3,200, averaging just over 11 fantasy points per game. You can also play him at third base and second base, but since those spots were already occupied, we moved him down to the outfield. And Jazz Chisholm is 3 for 4 versus Mitchell Parker, the expected starting pitcher for the Washington Nationals tonight. And he's the lone Yankee that has faced him in the past before, so definitely do like some of that upside with that past history that he does have. If we look at what Jazz Chisholm's done as of late, 7 out of his last 9 games, he has at least 1 hit, 4 multi-games during that time span, 3 home runs, 5 double-digit performances, and 7 games of at least 9 fantasy points or higher. So Jazz Chisholm, when I think about him, I don't think typical consistent guy, offers some power, offers some speed, but he's been pretty consistent as of late. And if we look at what he's done on the season in totality, 256 average, 20 home runs, 62 RBIs, once again averaging just over 11 fantasy points per game at $3,200. And then we're going to move down to our second outfielder, and that is going to be Mr. Riley Green. We played him, I believe, on Friday. $3,300, averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game. Goes against the Chicago White Sox. Davis Martin is the expected starting pitcher for them tonight, and Riley Green is 2 for 5 versus him in his career. And I know when we talked about Riley Green on Friday, we were talking about the little bit of the slump before that 2-hit game, and he's been on a good hitting streak since then. He's up to 4 games in total on that hit streak. He does have 2 multi-hit performances during that time span, 1 home run, 3 double-digit performances, and all 4 games have been at least 9 fantasy points or higher. So offers a pretty safe floor tonight overall. And if we look at what he's done so far on that season, 263 average, 18 home runs, 55 RBIs, once again averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game at $3,200. But with that being said, if you were to go with the 5 players that I do have listed, you have $14,700 remaining. Just under $3,700 per player, so you can pretty much pay up for anybody that you want on tonight's slate. Not a lot of higher priced players out there. You know, you got kind of like Aaron Judge and Trey Turner and Bryce Harper and like Kyle Schwarber, Juan Soto, those type of guys. But there's not too many of them out there tonight, so maybe this is even a slate that we leave a little bit of money on the table. Can't completely rule that out, but definitely feel free to mix and match at that pitcher position and some of these other spots at the same time as well. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. So once again, the cheat sheet is 100% free. It is up on Facebook. It's up on Twitter. It's up on the YouTube community tab. So definitely feel free to check it out as you're building out your lineups for tonight's slate overall. But the three teams that I do have to stack for tonight, we're going to have the New York Yankees, who are going against Mitchell Parker. Mitchell Parker's had a pretty solid rookie season. He's a left-handed pitcher. Yankees typically at left-handed pitching pretty well. Jazz Chisholm, once again, is the only player that has had history versus him in the past, although it is some pretty good history. But definitely do like the upside of the Yankees lineup once again tonight. We got the St. Louis Cardinals going against maybe Randy Vasquez, I should say, because that's who's listed on roster resource. We don't have an official confirmation of that at the time of this recording. I'm recording on Sunday night. I will be posting, down in the comments once we do have the confirmed starter for them and that Rockies game, which we'll mention over with our next stack. But in terms of the Cardinals, they have very, very limited history versus Randy Vasquez in the past if he is the expected starter. But definitely do like the upside of this Cardinals team tonight, whether they're going against Randy Vasquez or probably another less than stellar pitcher in that situation. And then last but not least, we have the Miami Marlins, a team that I have not stacked very often this year, but they're going against the Colorado Rockies. It might be Ryan Feltner on the mound. It might be somebody else. Who knows at this point in time, but does look like a pretty good matchup for them overall. Do like getting to some of those hitters, whether it's a Jesus Sanchez, whether that's Connor Norby, whether it's Jake Burger. A lot of different options out there for that Marlins team. It's at game at Coors Field, and they have relatively cheap price tags for players playing at Coors Field tonight. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown in terms of my core picks as well as top GPP teams to stack for Monday, August 26th. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then, as always, I'll be leaving all the updates down in the comments as well, whether that is starting pitcher relay, which we're going to have a couple of those updates probably pretty early on in the day. I will also be listing all the weather updates down there, as well as all the starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the afternoon and early evening. Depending on how the day shakes out tomorrow, I might miss a couple of those early evening ones, but I'll try to have as many down in that comment section as possible up until that time. So definitely be sure you're checking up down there as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos Monday through Friday. We got my CFL video dropping once a week, typically on Wednesdays. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description for Prize Picks, Parlay Play, and BetUS. If you're a brand new user on any one of those three sites, when you sign up, make your first deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match on your first deposit up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.